Good evening, everyone. There we go. All right. So Alyssa and Richard, our team, we started out driving largely from the point, there were many different dimensions that the various teams could have started from. We basically started from a shift in worldview. So we started with, for those of you that were there, the cosmology. So essentially what we did was we started with an assumption of a different worldview than the worldview that undergirded the political design, in particular that the United States was based around, which, as scholars like to note, was a Newtonian worldview. So clocks, gears, celestial mechanics, those things, all wonderful Newtonian mechanics. Those are all the types of things that the human senses are geared to sort of observe and measure. Okay, that's the world that we observe in the macro level. And so what we did was we started with this design from a cosmology about complexity and chaos. And so essentially approaching it from the point of view of seeing the world in terms of complex systems and using complex systems thinking to perceive everything and design everything that we had. And I was told to keep these very short, and we had a lot of practice today about keeping our stuff short. So there were a number of things that we tried to lay out in the framework. I'll run through just a couple of them, and they are not in order in this kind of, we didn't practice with our slides, so it's not his fault. This actually, you go back, yes. This was actually a very helpful model and diagram. And Aaron, one of our guys, threw it out as soon as we started talking. It's from another colleague of ours named Dave Snowden. And basically it breaks the world up into sort of 4 quadrants. And what you're looking at, again, thinking in terms of complex systems thinking, is down on the bottom right, you've got where the world is simple systems. These are the things that this is the pool table. This is billiards, right? Up in the upper right, we have where the world is complicated. But if we study it enough, if we do enough math, we can actually figure out how to optimize those systems. As we move over to the left side of the diagram, that's when things get disordered and we see true complexity up in the upper corner. And down in the bottom left corner is where the world truly just sort of gets chaotic and we really don't have a handle on why and how things happen. And as Aaron pointed out, down in that corner is where cause no longer equals effect at all. Okay? This actually was a very useful frame of reference that we used and referenced throughout the conversation. So as using this kind of stuff, we started talking about things like values. What kinds of values would a society that embraced complex systems thinking, what kinds of values would be important for them in designing a governance system? And they were things like experimentation, constant, continual experimentation, right? Sort of the tentativeness, the sort of a contingency of knowledge. You always sort of approach the world from a point of view of humility. So you're always sort of testing, trying to figure out where are you? Where on that map are you? The kind of problems you're dealing with, and you're using that to help frame the kind of decision-making you're going to engage in terms of things like human nature, the kinds of human nature, the assumptions that we used. We said we want to believe that humans have an intrinsic need for belongingness, love, affinity, things like that. We didn't quite say it, but I'd probably speak for the group and say we wanted to say that, you know, people were basically nice and they wanted to affiliate with each other and do nice things by each other. However, we also basically said that humans are not quite as effectively rational as we tend to think of ourselves. And it's demonstrated often when we are engaged in problem solving in complex systems. So those are some of the assumptions of human nature that we used. And then in terms of looking at who would be the political community, who would be the citizens, who would be the political subjects under this kind of system, we started talking about individuals, and we had actually a lot of debate about individuals versus the system. Complex systems thinking is about seeing the system, so you're seeing the whole. And in fact, it's often more important to understand the relationships than it is the individual actors. And actually, we had a little bit of debate about the actual role and position of individual human beings. We came away talking about networked people. And I think a lot of that has to do with fundamentally understanding people as part of a network and as part of larger systems. And then I think we talked a little bit about how our governance system, part of its function, would be to continually assess and reassess not just individuals, but the various systems that actually sort of have legal standing, that are actually subjects of political action and political rights. And among those, for instance, we were talking about establishing right from the get-go how ecosystems and ecosystem services and things like that would fundamentally sort of have rights and be sort of political subjects. I think I'll stop now. And we have, frankly, what is a awesome, wonderful preamble.
Yes.
And
that I have not memorized, so I'll read it. And we had help from the graphic illustrator today. This is what happens when you finish early. Yeah, I'll flip the page. Oh.
Michael, you hold it. Alyssa, stay by the mic so we can.
Okay, and I have to read it. Okay, so we believe that the world is complex and interactive, full of surprises and unintended consequences. We humbly acknowledge that we are not as rational as we think we are. We understand ourselves as networked people in service of the systems in which we live. Therefore, we create this government in pursuit of resilience, experimentation, pluralism, and tolerance for honorable failure, so as to bestow to our posterity a world as rich or richer than our own. Signed the 26th of April. Thank you.